Oh, the moors.
Peeking in right now. That window.
It's gonna be my eyes soon.
Very nice.
The sun?
Yes. Nice ray of light.
Scoop. That don't want to be on camera, right? This is our new place, our new temple. All the beautiful moors here. Got the food on deck. Got the incognito camera woman.
Not so incognito.
How? This is our new spot. This is what Moors participating helps create. You know, none of us could have done this on our own. Thanks to all of you faithfully coming to class every Saturday for a year. All of you made this happen, even the online viewers who helped support by purchasing both of my books on riseofthemoors.org. Thank you for the support. Appreciate it. Love y'all. So yeah, this is the new spot. A more permanent location, because previously we had to go from library to library, bounce around in book spaces if they weren't booked, and then if we ran out of time and the space was booked after us, they would say, "Oh, you guys have to leave," and we have to leave. Now we can be here 24/7.
Oh no! Now you're gonna give us 17-hour lectures.
Exactly.
Going back to 10 to 4.
Exactly. You better pay attention.
No.
You can do with a ruler.
Yeah.
No bathroom breaks. No. So yeah, this is where we're at. If you missed last week's class, was it last week?
Yeah.
Last week's class on torts, please watch it. We're going to continue to talk about that.
Just one.
So, if you don't know, we're located at 23 Acorn Street
That was not
on the
kind.
3rd floor in so-called Providence. 02903. Send us your mail. Either it's your nationality packages, name correction, division notice, etc., etc., etc. Right? It's really called Narragansett Lands, it's Moorish Dominions. Pow, 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 pow. Right? Today's date, boom. Any questions?
B504. I hear the sound of.
No questions? All right. So basically last Saturday, we talked about tort claims. We all know what a tort claim is, right? Basically. So, government's job is to, what's government's duty towards man? Someone take it in?
Peace. Hold on, gentlemen. I need to sign in. Class is $10 now, so we can keep the temple.
Cool.
How's everybody doing? Got me scared like I just met her. Brand new.
No laughing, no smiling. Give me some love on camera so that people can feel it. People can't make it. This is what we do. All this love. All this melanin.
So make sure.
Guys, can I sit on the floor?
Yeah, thank you.
There's also another chair in the back. Sit up front, eh?
How's everyone feeling?
It's so low and you didn't notice.
Make it more.
You're good with me.
What years?
I'm gonna need more.
Torts.
Okay.
Let me continue with the
Oh,
tort.
deeper into it.
You heard that, that's right?
Yes.
You really called it Tort Team Tuesday?
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Tort Team Tuesday? I like that.
Because we're gonna, as class proceeds, the viewers are gonna know that we're gonna be doing, we're gonna form a committee on
And
this.
notes, kind of, sir.
It's gonna be every Tuesday. And basically because Tuesday is associated with Mars.
Right.
Our nation takes action. Mars is associated with action, so that's why it's gonna be on Tuesday. Then I looked at the time. 8 p.m. is also
You
the
need
energy
10?
of Mars.
Yeah.
So what's been happening with our nation, which is basically what a lot more we talk about,
Thank you.
is we're not taking action collectively. So we just are in harmony with the zodiac, and we're kind of forced to act on that energy. So that's why I'm choosing the days. That's why I say 14 Tuesday. Because if we're not in harmony with the zodiac, with nature's law, then what are we doing?
Sure. The Zodiac brings us together too.
So basically, that's nice. Bye. Now I'm gonna put all the information. It's gonna be just like the consular call, the free conference call thing. That's how we're gonna do it, so people, so more from all over the country can participate in this, because everyone's tired of the BS.
It is getting
Old, it's getting old, real fast.
Been old, actually.
Yeah, because a lot of us, you know, the Europeans will do something to us, arrest us, pull us over, violate us, and what my experiences have been as a consulate, a lot of Moors from all over the country are coming to me, right, trying to get me to help them in their individual situations, which is draining for me. And it's not just me, it's other consuls, other Moors who are in this position where we're helping the entire nation.
Yeah.
So instead of the individual person acting as government, giving their energy to the entire nation, right, the entire nation should get behind and then drive that spear right into the colonies, right?
Yeah.
So every time a Moor gets arrested by a policy enforcer, every time there's a foreclosure, like unlawful adjudication, anytime there's a traffic stop, anything whatsoever, what the Moors need to start doing is writing incident reports. Then we're going to have the Moors send those incident reports and affidavits to 23 Acorn Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 3rd floor, 02903, so we can begin to gather all this evidence to do a tort claim against the United States. So instead of me having to go to court as an individual and deal with the Europeans, I'm going to go ahead and go to a larger body of Moors and say, please help me deal with this. That's what government's supposed to do. That's what the Moorish American Consulate is supposed to do.
Oh, state comitatus.
What does that mean?
It's Latin for the power of the, sheriff or leader of government to seek the aid of anyone 15 and older to do exactly what you said.
Yeah.
It's in the Black Law Dictionary.
Yeah. So it says it right in the Declaration of Independence that governments get their power from the people.
Right.
So if we're elected officials and we're trying to hold the Europeans accountable, our nation has to say, yes, here's my case, you can represent me in court. I gotta go to work, I gotta take care of these children, I have other things to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what that does, it creates a trust. Whereas the people become the grantor and grant us permission to represent them in court, and we demand at settlement 25,000 notes in lieu of gold and silver per person that violated them. So if there's 10 policy enforcers that pulled you over, all 10 of them now owe you $25,000. And then once we get settlement, right, it's for the people's benefit. Right? So we're the trustees and we give the settlement to the people. And of course, we get compensated because we provided the service. Because remember, it takes finance to run a nation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's basically how it's going to work. And with all the extractions, all the documents that the Moorish American Consulate has, all the lien papers that we have. So you know how like when the Europeans, say come to court, right? That's the same thing as us liening them. They just send in the paperwork at first. Then eventually, if you don't come to court, they show up and they take it, right? So eventually, once these Europeans don't honor our liens and our documents, that's us going to court saying, did we have a problem? Which we obviously did. You know what I'm saying? That's the direction that we're going. So again, every Tuesday from next Tuesday on, which is Mars, right? At 8 p.m. Eastern, which 8 p.m. is what? Mars. We're trying to form a committee to deal with this. So basically, everyone who's watching and wants to be part of this or desires to be part of this, I put the link. There's a link in the description on the YouTube video, and I'll put all the information in the chat on the Facebook as well. Any questions on that?
The Moors are wanting to come out and be a part of it?
Eventually, yes. But for starters, it's just going to be a lot of planning, a lot of administration stuff.
What if they don't respect the tort code?
What do you mean?
The administrators.
You're talking about the Europeans?
Yeah.
They can't not respect the tort claim because we're physically going to be there. You understand what I'm saying?
And they would have to provide a revenue.
Exactly, because we you know how like a lot of Asiatics like we'll march and pray but never do anything.
Mm-hmm.
This is us not doing that. You understand what I'm saying? Like it's like if a bully's trying to fight you, you don't really have to face them until they show up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So what the Europeans, what their position has been is all these Moors do is send paperwork. They never show up in numbers, so they're not worried about it. So now we have to show up in numbers. So here's the problem: because how are they going to deny, let's say, 1,000 Moors at court? How are they going to do that?
No.
They don't even have that many people on staff.
Okay.
They can't. You know what I'm saying? Just like when we was at the House of Ram, the Moors shared that there was a statue of Christopher Columbus being taken down, and like 1,000 Italians were like, "No, don't take it down." So the city hall didn't do it. How are they going to tell 1,000 people no? You know what I'm saying? They can't tell 1,000 people no. Let's be serious. The only thing that they can do is result to violence, which they won't do. Because you have to understand that when I talk about this tort claim, I'm not talking about just the people in this room. I'm talking about all the people watching, all the thousands of views that this video is going to get, and more people coming in over time.
Well, let me.
So just before you go, that's going to gain international notoriety. When have the Moors ever talked about this? When have you heard any group of Moors talk about this? Exactly. So it's going to get international notoriety. You know what I'm saying?
But fair is a problem amongst us and amongst the Moors.
Yeah. So that's why I'm using Mars, because those who take action, they don't. I mean, fear is always there.
Yeah.
But we don't let it dictate our lives.
No. And you're right.
That's why I'm choosing Moors, because those active Moors are going to come. It doesn't matter who comes. They're going to desire to end what these Europeans are doing to us. That's what Moors demands, action. You understand? So the energy alone is demanding. It's like oh peace. It's like on the counselor call. Peace. Just like on the counselor call when Isaiah did the astrology, he was basically saying all of the planets are direct, meaning they're going in a direction. They're focusing in on a direction. So the Moors are trying to focus in on something. That's what this is. It's going to draw those people. Because people are looking, there's just not a body set up like this to do this. Now there is. I'm trying to put this in the chat. So I can't put it on the Facebook chat. So just go to the YouTube. Can't even comment at all. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, that connection is just bad. But I'm live on there. Any questions so far? Any comments? Any concerns? Yes.
What's the active number that needs to formulate this plan?
There isn't a set number.
What's that number?
No. The more people, the better. The more
Minimum.
more conscious. Minimum? I say 500. Minimum. 300. Minimum. Now that's not 300 people on the committee. That's 300 in total, meaning there are some more who just saying affidavits as our back. Their evidence is holding us up.
Show body.
Exactly, because we're going to represent that body of 300. And then all those 300 people that sent in their affidavits with their mailing location, then they get compensated once we demand settlement from the Europeans for the injuries that they've been causing us. That's what this is.
Oh, okay, so it's like when they hurt one more, they hurt all.
All of us, yes. Yeah. So now you're talking about the chapter on unity in the Quran where it says every living thing is bound to every other living thing. Because we are. Right? Quantum entanglement. And then the res judicata stare decisis, where it says when one person is enforcing the Constitution, he's not doing it for himself, he's doing it for the public as an attorney general. You know what I'm saying? That's why the punishment for treason is death. Because if you wage war against one person of your nation, you're waging war against everyone. Same thing as if we're all drinking water from a well and you pee in it, you're poisoning everyone. You gotta go. You know what I'm saying? So yes, that's exactly what it is.
Sound like you said European.
Basically. All right. Any other questions?
What's the time frame for this
So
project?
that's more what the committee will talk about. So I'll just act like this is the committee since we're over here. Right? Based on astrology, all of the planets, specifically Saturn, they're going to be direct until April. So anything that we start now, there's nothing that's going to be able to stop us until April. But that doesn't mean things are going to end. It's just going to continue slowly now. You know what I'm saying? It's just progress is going to be still made, just slow. You know what I'm saying? And then you also can't forget that the sun has a part in it too, because around March 21st, spring, right? The new year, new life is already starting. You know what I'm saying? So it's never gonna not
Work with that.
exactly. Heaven's on our side. You know what I'm saying? Just we have to plot the stars and make sure we're doing certain things on certain days. You know what I'm saying? Great questions. Any other questions? Yes.
Well, nothing, never mind.
Oh yeah.
Unrelated, I'll ask later.
So
When
here's
you say the heavens are on our side.
Yep.
You mean the side of anyone who is aligned like
more.
consciously in thought.
Basically, yeah. Because nature is not biased.
Right.
So anyone who's working with nature, nature's gonna help them.
Correct. I just wanted to be clear on that.
Yeah. It's not just work God's chosen people, so it's only gonna work for us. Nah, everyone's
You
equal.
gotta be careful because.
Oh yeah. You're right.
who we dealing with.
So this is what I was thinking it could look like. Now, the reason why I say this,
You might have to AKA and put all of them.
Huh?
You might have to AKA and put all of their aliases.
for this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be specific on who we facing.
AKA and put all of them. Because they think they slick. Mhm. The word, they take the word serious sometimes. They take it way more serious than we would ever like to believe. When the Bible says that in the beginning was the word, they take that dead serious. The only way you can speak to them is with some of them, when you get to certain levels, the only way you speak to them is through letters. Where you have to put words on. You must know these words are serious. Don't come up with all these titles just because they got nothing to do. Especially when you're playing this
what other names do they have?
abnormality law.
What other names do they have?
I think you come right?
No, District of Columbia
District of Columbia.
and USDC, the Service Corporate, US Corp.
Oh yeah, US Sports.
Now, the reason why it's looking like that is I'm going to read this standard size sheet real fast. Just so you see, just so it's clear in everyone's mind. And I might as well just read this document too. Anyone want to take a picture of this before I erase it? Eventually, all these will be here. Don't touch no. I don't know. So a lot of times I present certain things to Moors, and they'll come. Their response will be an emotional response, like I don't like the words that are being used. And that's a valid argument to an extent because we're all dealing with jurisdiction. Juris means, positive and right. Diction means words, right? But people need to understand that just because the United States is a corporation, they think that the word corporation is bad, right? But if we break down etymologically the word corporation, what do we see?
Collaboration.
Corpse.
Okay.
Right? What is corp?
Yeah.
Body. It doesn't mean death, it means body. That's the problem. A lot of people think that corp means dead. It doesn't. It means body. Like corpus juris economy, the body of law, right? Or the Marine Corps, the body of the Marines, right? So all the word corporation means is a body in action.
In the beginning was the word.
Is everyone following that? See, because you need to know this, because that helps you clear up your status. That's what I'm saying. Because when I bring up things like Moors need to go to federal court, some people will say, why are you in a federal court? They don't have jurisdiction. But they do have jurisdiction over their people.
Right.
Because it's diversity of citizenship. Exactly. Yeah. But some people aren't making that connection in their mind. Because when we get out of our black state, we start to realize, oh, they're not government, they're de facto. It's not that they're not government, period. They're not our government.
Right. They're just here administering their own government.
Exactly. So in this situation, it's our government versus their government. As the plaintiff, we're having their magistrate hold their people accountable. That's what this is. Are we clear on this?
Mm-hmm.
Are we sure?
Much more clear.
That's very important.
That's overstanding.
Okay, great. Overstanding. Great. Now, when I read this, it's going to make more sense, hopefully. Sounds like we're coming into it. I'll zoom in. Yeah, we need curtains. Oh yeah, by the way, if you want to donate to the temple, we need curtains.
Donate button.
Oh yeah, there's a donate button on riseofthemoors.org if you want to start paying dues to help us keep this running. All right. So
good too.
Thank you.
Yes, it was.
So this right here, we all know what stare decisis is, right? Res judicata.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't know, stare decisis. Stare means to look fixedly at. Decisive means something already decided. So the Constitution itself is an example of something that's called stare decisis. Res judicata, res is Latin, means a thing. Judicata means already adjudicated on. So whenever a judge makes a decision, that is called stare decisis, because being part of the judicial branch of government, they're charged with interpreting the law, right? In Moorish custom, that interpretation of law is called a fatwa. Stare decisis and res judicatus, aka fatwa, is what helps form the common law, which applies to all free national beings. It doesn't apply to subject slaves and Negro, black, colored, Spanish, Latino, etc., etc., etc. It applies to free national beings, right? So that's why we have to declare nationality, because that determines our political status. So stare decisis and res judicata helps determine the common law, or helps form the common law. Even though the common law is just there, it's just bringing something that's non-tangible into something that's tangible.
You know what's crazy too?
Yes.
In Shrek, the dude who took the land from the swamp from Shrek was Lord Farquaad, right? And Shrek went after him to get the land back for his swamp back, but all the fairy magical people were part of his swamp and wanted to live there. It's funny that his name sounds just like Fatwa.
Fatwa?
Yeah, Lord Farquaad.
No coincidence.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm reading right now is stare decisis / res judicata. It states that in as much as every government is an artificial person, right? Because us collectively, that's something artificial. You know what I'm saying? Right? An abstraction and a creature of the mind only. A government can only interface only with artificial persons. You know what I'm saying? So the Moorish American consulate is an artificial person. Is an artificial person. That's why I put Moorish American consulate versus the United States, because the United States is also an artificial person. Right? And since this says that, right, that a government can interface only with other artificial persons, the Moorish American consulate is interfacing with the United States.
Yeah, because a corporation can deal with a live person.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you need another
Artificial being
to
fight it.
in the artificial language
Exactly.
to it in order to counterbalance it.
Exactly. Which is where we've been lacking as a people, because we haven't been doing that. Which is why Noble Drew Ali came and established the Moorish Science Temple of America, so we can do this. Which is why the Moorish Holy Temple of Science adopted as its corporate name the Moorish Science Temple of America as its corporate name.
Body in action.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly, a body in action. Gee, all y'all geniuses! You're getting it like that, right? Because it's common sense, common law, right? Great. The imaginary, having neither actuality nor substance. You can't touch the Moorish American concept. Try touching it. You can't, right? Nor substance. Is foreclosed from creating and attaining partly with the tangible, so it can't. It can't do anything. Right? The legal manifestation of this is that no government, as well as any law, agency, aspect, court, etc., can concern itself with anything other than corporate, artificial persons in the contracts between them. Right? This is why it's the Moorish American consulate versus the United States.
And the contract between them is when you would know.
The treaty
Yeah.
and the Constitution.
But when the battle, like the actual
Some of the court.
yeah.
It's human beings representing those. So it would
But
be
that's how we would converse with them.
as agents,
Mm-hmm.
because the consular is an agent. The word agent isn't bad. The word attorney isn't bad, because a consular is essentially an attorney for its consular. So we need to be clear on what these words actually mean, and understand the difference between the jurisdiction of the Moorish American nation, right, the Moorish American Free National Government, and the jurisdiction of the United States. Tracking?
Mm-hmm.
We have jurisdiction over ourselves. They have jurisdiction over them and their people. When those two bodies communicate, right, we deal with the treaty and the Constitution. That's the only way we need to be talking. There's nothing else to talk about. Was the treaty violated or was the Constitution violated? And if so, prove it. So by the Moors participating in this, sending in their affidavits, that's the Moorish American consulate being able to prove that our nation is being violated by all the nationals participating and sending in proof with their signed signature on the affidavits and thumbprint and witness. So we can bring this to the United States, which in that aspect, when it's the Moorish American consulate versus the United States, is international court. Why? Because we're a nation of people, and they're a collective nation of people. Because remember, the United States is a collection of French, German, Dutch, Polish peoples, politically guised as the United States. Exactly. So it's nation versus nation in this aspect. So us being present in that room and them being present in that room makes it consular court, makes it international court, makes it Article 3 court.
So it's basically
Say again?
just by us being there?
Yeah. By us being in there and our proper person, meaning knowing this information. Because when we go to court, regular, state level courts, and our people are there, that's not international because those black people are going to be subjects to the United States in each individual colony. That's why when our people go up there, the magistrate will have a piece of paper this far away and say, "Did you read this front and back?" And our people ignorantly say, "Yup." They say, "Is this your signature right here?" And our people say, "Yup." And the magistrate will say, "You're waiving your right to trial by jury, right?" And our people say, "Yes." You're waiving your right to demand that the state prove beyond reasonable doubt that you committed this, right? And our people say, "Yes." And our people say, "Well, did you speak to your attorney?" And our people say, "Yes." And they'll say, "Oh, hey, attorney, counsel, did he speak to you?" The attorney say, "Yes." Meaning our people are ignorant and we're agreeing to everything. So instead of going through that as individuals, oh yeah, hey, Moorish American consulate, my representative, I trust it.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You just definitely. We was talking about that on the way down in the car. Like, hey, yes, man. Oh my God! You hit the nail in the coffin. With
That's our problem.
Yeah.
We can't keep blaming the Europeans. I've been in court so many times, and the magistrates say, you should be deported. You know this. You know that. You know this. You know that. Do you know this? Do you know this? Do you know this? And our people are knowing damn well they don't know what this person's talking about. So yes, by us being there with this knowledge, that makes it consular court.
diversity is thing too.
Exactly. Which will be our argument. Because the Moorish American Consulate has already put these Europeans on notice, and every Moor that sends in their name correction and judicial proclamation has put them on notice of their right to travel and every other right, etc., etc., etc. So now, every time these Europeans violate, that gives us mandate or cause to sue them. There just needs to be a body for the Moors to come to and say, yes, here's my issue. But we really need our people to realize not to burden us. And let me be clear, meaning during these council meetings, we're not here to discuss individual problems. Tell us what the problem is, mail it to us, and then let us move forward. Right? And I'm only saying that because our people can hold us back. Unknowingly. Because they're honestly trying to find remedy, so they might slow us down a little bit. But we have to be able to deal with our people, because once you come to a certain level of knowledge, you start to realize we have a lot of wars. You understand what I'm saying? We have a lot of people that we need to take care of, so don't treat them like, they're lower than us, because they're not. Because we're all in the same situation. All of us in poverty. Ain't no one in this room not in poverty right now. I don't care what you tell me. I don't care how many cars you have, if you ain't got you got the MSO. Look how many houses you got, if you ain't got the title. You know what I'm saying? Any questions? Any questions in the chat? No?
Nope.
Okay. So since there's no questions on that, I'm gonna kind of shift gears into what the Moorish American Consulate has just rolled out is the right to travel information. Excuse me, that you can find on moorishamericanconsulate.org. And to be clear, what the Moorish American Consulate is doing is just reiterating we have the right to do this. Which again, once these Europeans violate, that gives us a mandate to sue. So all we're doing is building a case. The people need to know that. Because once the people are violated, they have to tell us. Because if you don't tell us, we don't know. You know what I'm saying?
So let me ask you, what if another Moor is having issue in Oklahoma, and they send in the paperwork, and we send them back the package that they need to present in court?
Yeah.
They just need to just show up with the package.
They don't need to show up physically. They can mail it. That's called a special appearance.
Okay.
So there's an appearance. When you read appearance in Black's Law Dictionary, it's relating to jurisdiction. A special appearance is you're only showing up to challenge jurisdiction. But to avoid that, individual incidences like this, because what they do is they'll kidnap you and say, we're not going to release you until a certain amount of time, which they don't tell you, until you agree to be the straw name. That's what they do. That's what they try to do to me. You know what I'm saying? So instead of putting our physical bodies in there, send in the paperwork so we can hit these people. You know what I'm saying? Because some people in that setting, when you go to court, you're surrounded by nothing but Europeans. So you're gonna lose because you're just outnumbered. But in this situation where we all show up to court, federal court, Kennedy Plaza.
Yeah, because local, you always lose in local.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Always.
Exactly. Because once you go to state level court, you're agreeing to their jurisdiction. You're saying, I'm a citizen of your state. That's why nations speak federally, contractually, federal disputes contract. So you go to federal court because the contract is a treaty in the Constitution. There's nothing else to talk about. You're absolutely right.
And once you violate that, whatever contract they set up because of the lower courts, they have to pay for remedies.
Yeah, they have to. Yep. But the issue is when, and I'll compile something together. When you read, like, I think it's caselaw.findlaw.com, and you can control search, which is they have records from all federal cases. You can control search like Moorish American or Moors, and they'll show you where certain Moors have been in court, they're incompetent. And you can tell by the language that the Moors are using, their argument is you shouldn't be arguing any of that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So with the Moorish American consulate, we're asking for competent people.
Right.
So we don't have to hold anyone's hand along this process. So we can get through it. Because once we do this, it will be considered a landmark case. Because now it's saying every time you touch any Moor, period, now we have stare decisis res judicata on the record. Understand what I'm saying? You sure? Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Great. So, back to the right to travel. There's been a lot of confusion on this. I'm just going to read this. I wrote this yesterday.
I have one question.
Yes. Yes.
The location
Uh,
of the tort where we're gonna show up, is it gonna be here or any place?
I was thinking that we can do it here since we have a large amount of people here. It'll be easier for other Moors to just come out here since we have a permanent location now, right? And there's already a lot of Moors, so we can meet and greet and all that good stuff. And those who want to actually be in court can come here and, you know, crash at the temple for a little bit, for a few days, you know, because it's not going to be like every day we're showing up to court, you see what I'm saying? So, but this is also something that we can talk more detail about on the committee meetings. Great question. But I propose that we do it here, but we would have to vote so that, you know, Moors across the country can say, you know, if they have a large body of Moors in their area, then we'll do it there because it just makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Active Moors, shouldn't we say Moors? A large body of active Moors within their jail society actually doing civics. Then we'll go there. You know what I mean? Or just have a few of us go there. You know what I'm saying? Great question. So, this is in harmony with the tort claim. Right? This is in harmony with the tort claim, and it's in harmony with the Moorish American consulate issuing their own right to travel plates and liens and extractions. So you have to understand how this is. You have to understand that it's related. Right? So this confusion on driver's licenses and the right to travel. As the natural people of the land and other American citizens begin to wake up or become cognizant of their natural and divine birthrights, the issue of right to travel was brought to the forefront of Moorish science and discussions of jurisprudence. We already know that, right? Right to travel, everyone's talking about that. Because the Authentian forces are just pulling everyone over all willy-nilly, right? The issue is quantumly entangled into every issue of human rights. Because since they're stopping our right to move, they're encroaching on our ability to make finance or enough currency or enough energy to provide for our families, right? Basics. So what the European colonial impositionists have done is subverted the constitutional right of Congress to regulate commerce by exercising the congressional powers of the Republic post facto, the adjournment of Congress sine die of 1861 in a de facto manner. Does that make sense to everyone? Are we sure? Great. With the Republic now inactive, right, due to the General Education Board, so the Republic is only inactive because the people aren't doing anything. That's it. Not because the Europeans said, you know, the Constitution is suspended. It's not suspended, it's the people aren't enforcing it. That's really what it is, right? So don't let them trick you by them saying things like that, because that's not what it is. It's just inactive because the people, the actual human beings, aren't enforcing law. That's why, right? The de facto unconstitutional Democratic Congress, along with the Board of Governors of every state, right? Gino Raimondo, right? Have been controlling the energy of the people by keeping the mass public ignorant of their constitutional rights and coaxing them into commercial agreements in order to be regulated, misused, abused, and manipulated. Does that make sense to everyone? So you have the right to travel, but what they teach us at a young age is drive, permit, permission, permission. Right? That's them leading us towards that so that they can regulate that. Because we read Article 1 of the Constitution, it says that Congress has the right to regulate commerce. So they're exercising legislative powers over our people, which they do not lawfully have, but they have it legally once we agree to get those contracts. Cool, right? Great. The apparent power of this de facto Congress ability to regulate commerce and the state of the Department of Motor Vehicles and Department of Transportation is called color of law or fake law, right? Especially in the case of Moors, as the United States Colonial Union or Pact Federation / federal government is not our government, nor are we citizens thereof. That's dealing with the fraudulent 14th Amendment, 1868, which was never ratified, which we've been putting on the record since we basically started this, right? Then we look at the Dred Scott case. It says Dred Scott wasn't a citizen of Missouri. Why? Because he was actually a Moor. Then we look up the Sundry Free Moors Act of 1790. Those mixed Moors were pleading to the House of Representatives that we are not black, we are Moors. So again, declare your nationality, right? Right to travel means the right to travel and move about freely in your private property, automobile, or any other mode of conveyance on the public roads, highways, byways, waterways, and airways without a driver's license or pilot license, insurance, or registration, and exempt from regulations or interruption, provided one does not engage in commerce, earn profit, or cause harm to the people or anyone's property. This right is not only secured in the Constitution and Bill of Rights, but in the Declaration of Independence and the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, et alia means, and others. Then here's a quote from the unanimous declaration on basically the Declaration of Independence that the 13 colonies expressed, right? Now we're only using this as a study tool because it's based on common law, divine law, etc., etc., etc. It says, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. Basically, they're saying what Noble Drew did in 1913. Because the 14th and 15th Amendment is that political band that's been connecting us to them, along with the birth certificate and the Social Security number, which Noble Drew said the 14th and 15th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of my people and citizens. Second? Right? A decent respect for the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the cause which impelled them to the separation. Declare your nationality. Declare who you are. That's separating you from them. Noble Drew said that, right? That's only if you study what he's actually saying. Not just reading it for face value and then saying, I know what I'm talking about. We already know those people, right? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. What does men mean? To think, right? So all people who think are created equal. Because if you can't think, then you're not equal. Chances are you're someone's ward or property that's Negro, Black, and colored. Or, your child. Right? That they are endowed by their creator, your mother, with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If you can't move, chances are you ain't happy. Boom, right to travel. Right. Then the Massachusetts Constitution of 1780, all men are born free and equal and have certain natural, essential, and unalienable rights, among which may be reckoned the right of enjoying and defending their lives and liberties. Enjoying and defending
Keywords.
Their lives and liberties. That of acquiring, possessing, right? Adverse possession, possessing, rights of indigenous people, possession, right? And protecting their property. In fine, that of seeking, obtaining their safety and happiness. According to nature's law, all natural beings have the right to move about freely. Just imagine a bird. It travels freely, unencumbered, and is regulated by its own competence, will, and free choice. Just as a bird is free to move, so are humans. That simple. Just like in the Bible says, observe all things which I commanded of you, and lo, I'm with you always. Observe nature, and you'll see the truth. Ain't no birds being regulated. The only exception applied to commercial activity. And this commercial activity is regulated by the people to protect the people. Law is a system of rules that are created and established as a guideline for humanity, a set of moral and ethical principles set by those before us to help guide the human race. There's only one. It's called human. Government's sole duty is to ensure the people's pre-existing rights and liberties. An example of this is the power given to Congress to regulate, the power given to Congress to regulate commerce. This regulation of commerce was not only established to protect those who are conducting commerce from torts, injuries, and the like, but also to protect those persons not within the jurisdiction of commercial regulations. This is why, as an example, when I was stationed in Japan, Okinawa, Japan, there was a rule that if you get into a car accident in Japan and you're part of the United States, right? Part of any of the armed forces, part of the United States, it doesn't matter if a Japanese person hits you or you hit them, it's automatically your fault. Why? Because we're doing business on their land. Those operating in commerce always take liability when dealing with someone not operating in commerce, because the Japanese people, that's their land. We're guests. So if anything happens, it's the United States' fault. Exactly. That same principle applies to us when we know it and enforce it. Because one thing to know it, and it's an entirely separate thing to enforce it. You know what I'm saying? That's laws that we can create for our people and then enforce it for our people. Understand your power, right? Thus, if one's not using one's automobile for public use, i.e. for hire, then commercial regulations do not apply to you nor your automobile or property. Then, res judicata stare decisis. When, therefore, one devotes his property to a use in which the public have an interest, that's commerce, he in effect grants the public an interest in that use and must submit to be controlled by the public for the common good, i.e. they submit to commercial regulations, meaning if you're an Uber driver, right, you gotta get no state license, but if you're conducting that business, and I'm one of your passenger means paying person, right, and I see roaches in your car, I'm not getting in there. Or if I do get in, roaches crawling over me, and I get to my destination, you gotta give me that free ride. That's regulating commerce, you know what I'm saying? That's equity, you know what I'm saying? So don't think that their regulation of commerce is the end all be all. It's based on equity, period. Equity just means fairness, period. Tracking? Great, I know you are. To the extent of the interest which he has created. Another example is if you got a restaurant, you got roaches in your food, you got liability. You know what I'm saying? But if you have a restaurant and you don't have a license from these Europeans, they can't just say, well, you need a license. If no one's complaining, right, then what are they there for? Or if you don't have, like certified to do license and blah, blah, whatever, their credentials. If no one's complaining about, the quality of your food and the hygiene and all that good stuff, then there's no need for any of these people to come to your place of business and say, well, you need to be certified by the FDA and the Department of Health, and you don't need none of that crap. That's BS. Because again, there's also stare decisis that says every man is independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. He's not bound to any institutions formed by his fellow men without his consent. That's contract. That's an agreement. We have to stop agreeing. All right, cool. Right of the citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport one's property thereon, either by carriage or automobile, is not a mere privilege which a city may prohibit or permit at will, but a common right which he/she has under the right of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Right? I'm not going to read all this because we already know our right to travel, etc., etc., etc. But considering Morocco, North America, is occupied by commercial mercenaries, Moors and other nationals are often stopped by highwaymen guised as law, and they often demand for commercial instruments. Is that or is that not true?
That's true.
It is true. They never violate our right to travel. They only speak within commerce. Is that or is that not true?
That's true.
It is true, right? That's exactly what they do.
That's all they know. That's what they're taught.
And we need to identify it so we can counteract it.
Yeah, so people are about to say, right? They never impose on one's, on one's right to travel. They're always sure to use commercial language to keep whomever it is that they're talking to in a commercial jurisdiction. That's a fact, right?
Yeah.
We all know this. That's a fact. I know a lot of you, we've been in these traffic situations. I know it for a fact, right? Fortunately for the Moors, the United States and the individual states thereof are not our official representatives. Therefore, they have no right to regulate our commerce. Is everyone tracking on that?
Mm-hmm.
Great. 5 minutes. We do. It is often codified within the several states of the Union that foreign nationals and non-residents of their states do not require licensing from them, which is in harmony with the Act of State Doctrine and national sovereignty of free nationals. Does that make sense? Right? So what I'm about to read later, this is setting up for that, which I told you about. Right? So, it is therefore in the Moors' interest to, if necessary, once nationalized, to cease using the commercial licenses issued from the colonial states and conduct commerce in your free national capacity. Everyone tracking on that? This is why I'm issuing certificates to the Moors. Issuance of such certificates by no means impedes, impairs, liens, hinders, nor revokes any Moor's right to travel. Do we understand that? Just by you having this does not mean that you cannot travel. You just have something of a commercial nature to give to these policy enforcers. That's it. You'll see why in this document, right? Moors need to be clear on this distinction between the jurisdictional powers of the United States and the jurisdictional powers of the Moorish free national government. The free national government that the prophet spoke of cannot confer nor grant any rights. Right? Yet, as government, we can and must issue commercial documents to protect our people from encroachment by these commercial mercenaries. Is that starting to make sense?
Yes.
Great. Evidence of the Moorish divan's obligation to protect its people in their commercial interests is what it should say, is prima facie within the very title of the Treaty of Amity and Commerce, 1786, 1787. Amity and commerce, right? Just like the prophet said, just because you were born here, that does not make you a citizen. In order to be a citizen, one must participate in civics, government, and constitutional enforcement. We must protect our citizens, which is also why he said, amongst us, all members must proclaim their their nationality. Right? I think that's Act 6 or something like that. Those Moors who acquire a commercial certificate at cost is indeed alone a citizen. Does that make sense? Because you're participating. Right? Some Moors still need to drive in order to make a living, while others may desire documentation from our government to ensure their protection from commercial mercenaries. And it is our obligation, talking about the Moorish American Consulate, to provide said documents. Right?
Someone has to create it.
Huh?
Someone physically has to
I already
create
did
it.
Because it's my obligation.
Right.
Because it says in my commission to treat with the United States, these de facto entities, and to protect the Moors. Right? Considering the very definition of a consular is an officer of a commercial character, reading the Black's Law Dictionary, it is in our interest as the Moorish American Consulate to protect our nationals' commercial assets. Right? Considering the land is under occupation and our nationals are being targeted by private commercial mercenaries, it is in our national interest to issue commercial certificates to protect our people. Excuse the typo. Most stops involving Moors and Europeans result in an injury when the colonizers ask for commercial papers and the Moor has none to give. In order to prevent these injuries, it would behoove us to make the laws conform to our will. Does that make sense? And then right here, I have an example of province police. And what does that say right there? Commercial enforcement. That's why they ask you, let me see your driver's license. Let me see your registration. They're asking you for commercial instruments, which according to the treaty, we're to protect our people's commercial interests. And since government can't deal with human beings, they can only deal with contracts amongst corporations, we have to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not, if that doesn't make sense to anyone,
That never will.
go back to studying. Just do this, listen to what I said, put your feelings to the side, and go back to Black's Law Dictionary. You understand what I'm saying? They ask you for commercial documents.
Yeah.
That's what they ask you for. They can't take right to travel stuff because they can't deal with human rights. They can only deal with commerce. Commercial enforcement. Does that say rights or private rights or human rights? Nope, it says commerce, right? Which this was based on what happened in your situation. Right? The issuance of these certificates is by no means a waiver of our natural divine rights to travel, as all waivers of rights must be explicitly expressed by the party waiving said rights, and the cause for the waiver and its effect must be fully disclosed to said person. It may also be an implied waiver, which the acquisition of the commercial certificates is by no means an implied waiver of any fundamental and substantive rights. Is everyone clear on that? Great. These certificates are issued for the sole purpose of protecting our nationals' private and public rights, assets, real estate, and property. No government can have a say in its people's rights. Government's sole duty is to protect pre-existing rights. Therefore, all governments can do, essentially, is declare the rights of its people, protect the rights of its people, and establish laws regulating commerce in order to ensure that government can function and protect the people. Right? And then again, every man is independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. He's not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow men without his consent. And I just read this one that, yep, Queen versus Neil. And I just read this one where government is an artificial person, right? Great. The state is prohibited from violating substantive rights, and it cannot, by one power, as an example, police power, that which is, for example, prohibited expressly to any other such power, taxation, eminent domain, etc., as a matter of law. Meaning they can't just break the law by force. That's what that's saying. Nor indirectly that which is prohibited to it directly. Same thing, right? Where the rights are secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. It is not the duty of the police to protect you. Their job is to protect the corporation and arrest code breakers. So as long as you're within code, as long as you have something that says commercial something, you're good, right? No state government entity has a power to allow or deny passage on any highways, byways, nor waterways transporting his vehicles, blah, 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 blah. We already know this, right? And I think another one, persons are not subject to commerce, etc., etc., etc. So this is a draft of an example that I made. I made some for Rhode Island, for Moors within the corporate jurisdiction of Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, and New York. I made templates for these. This is from their law, what I'm about to read. Some of it is what I wrote, and I'll read it. Right, so this is a certificate of driver's license. It's not a driver's license, it's a certificate of driver's license. Right? So this is essentially going to be issued to Moors who already have, driver's license from the so-called corporate states, to transfer it over to us, so that I know you're already competent. You got the license in the first place. So now just get rid of that corporate BS. Come to your, corporate state, de facto. Come to your free nation and just get protection that way, right? Now here's why. It says this is to certify that, insert the name there, is a Moroccan citizen and national, permitted to travel, drive, and operate their automobile in the state of Rhode Island, and is registered within the Court of Morocco pursuant to Rhode Island general laws. Rhode Island general laws, Title 31. So if you're in so-called Rhode Island, you want to write this down. Title 31, motor and other vehicles. I'll just put it up on this. Where's Rhode Island at? And this is on certificate paper, right? And this is something that you keep in your conveyance at all times. So feel free to pass this around, by the way. Right. So this is the document that's being passed around. So pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, Title 31, motor and other vehicles, Chapter 31-10, operators and chauffeurs licenses, Section 31-10-2, and Title 31, motor vehicles, Chapter 31-7, foreign vehicles, which we're foreign to them, right? 31-7-1. Subsection 31-7-1, right to operate on foreign registration, which this document says you're registered with the Court of Morocco, right? This is their laws, right? A non-resident owner, which we're not residents, right? Resident means, res means a thing, right? And det means identified, right? Remember when the policy enforcer pulled you over, he said your name's not pulling up. You're not a thing identified in their system. That's why. Right? Any non-resident owner, except as otherwise provided in subsection 31-7-2 and 31-7-3, owning any foreign vehicle of a type otherwise subject to registration pursuant to this title, may operate or permit the operation of that vehicle within this state, meaning Rhode Island, without registering the vehicle in or paying any fees to this state, meaning Rhode Island, subject to the condition that the vehicle at all times when operated in this state, meaning Rhode Island, is duly registered in and displays upon it a valid registration card and registration plate or place issued for that vehicle in the place of residence of that owner, meaning from your government. Right? 31-10-2, persons exempt from licensing requirements. Persons exempt from licensing requirements. Exactly. Number 2, a non-resident who is at least 16 years of age and who has in his or her immediate possession, which is that certificate, a valid operator's license issued to him or her in his or her own home state or country. Who's that? Us. Right? That's what this is their law, right? May operate a motor vehicle in this state as an operator. So when the policy enforcer says, let me see your stuff, you show them that. From the court of Morocco, from your government that you elected, which they have to honor. And the code's right there, so they can't say, well, this ain't our law because it's right there. Right? So instead of saying anything to any policy enforcer, you hand them this. Right? Number 4, a non-resident who is at least 18 years of age, whose home state or country does not require the licensing of operators, may operate a motor vehicle as an operator only for a period of not more than 90 days in any calendar year if the motor vehicle so operated is duly registered in the home state or country of that non-resident. So within the state of Rhode Island, do you need a driver's license? No. That's only if you're not a resident. You're not a citizen of Rhode Island, which we are not. That's that.
How many people know this?
Me? You? All the viewers now. But the issue is, we've been saying we're not citizens of their state and then not claiming a nationality, so who do you belong to? Because then you're still stateless. Which dealing with nature, if a state sees a stateless person, nature, your heart tells you I need to take care of that person because he has no home. So that's what they've been doing. We've been wards of their state. The issue is they've been violating us with our agreement. So on that document, I put the document in the printer wrong, so it prints it on the back. So then I figured out I gotta put the document upside down. It was a test, right? And it's a typo, but I fixed it, don't worry.
Fail the test.
Hey, that's what tests are for. Don't fail tests. Right? Then issued from the Court of Morocco, issuing authority me, then I'll sign it and seal it, and this is what we need to be doing for our people to protect their commercial interests because these commercial mercenaries are violating them. I'll be clear. Yeah. Anything after this, if you hand them that and they still put their hands on you, tort claim. Not just subject to traffic stops. Anything, if they look at you wrong, if they call you by something other than your free national name, that's defrauding you. Understand? Because now they're holding you accountable for someone else's actions. That's fraud. Right? That's why slander is such a big thing, because if you tarnish someone's name, you tarnish their reputation, their credibility, their ability to do business, their ability to do anything. That's why our ancestors used to, act accordingly. There's a movie, there's an old movie. This guy, he used to play the, what's that thing called? She's on it? Harmonica. It was like back in the day, I can't remember, I think it was Cadillac Records or something like that. One of those old movies, right? And he was really good at it. And he was getting notoriety. And then they were traveling to some state and there was some other people acting like claiming to be him. And I'm not saying do this. So in the movie, he pulled out a gun and he dealt with that person. Because you're tarnishing his name and his reputation. I'm not saying we need to do that. I'm just showing you that's common law. That's nature's law. That's what that is. You understand what I'm saying? We need to be clear on that. That's the type of power that we have. The Europeans are exercising that power by having the death penalty. We can do the same thing. As an example, we can say any European policy enforcer that touches any one of our women without a counsel being present, without any one of us being present, and violates any laws, their punishment is the rope. Which we as a nation of people have the right to do that. Do we understand this? Do we comprehend this? Do we understand this? Do we understand this? Do we get it? There, right? Because the prophet said we are for love, right? Truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Right? Now, isn't our women the entire nation? Right? So if they violate one of our women, I mean, you violated me, you, that's treason. Say they deserve a ruling. But we have to go about it peacefully first. We have to go through love first, truth first, peace first, freedom first. Then if they violate that freedom,
It's the last
then
resort.
justice.
Justice.
Clear? Any questions? Any questions on anything? Any comments?
When is the flood coming?
When is the flood coming? Something's happening. Something's happening March 25th, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I don't know what exactly. Oh, sweating.
Yeah, March is for the rain.
So, since there's no any questions, no?
What flood? Where did you get that notion of a flood from?
It's easy. No questions? Statements, want to add? Yes.
So that paper is like large and bulky. Do you make smaller ones?
That certificate?
Yeah.
I can't, it won't fit. That's something that you keep in the glove department.
Is that bonded watermark paper?
I'm not sure actually. It's certificate paper, okay, that.
Yeah.
Got from statements. So, you know, just like when you got your car from that place?
Yeah.
That's for the title? That was on certificate paper.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was all folded up, but they still accept it. They have to accept that. They have to.
I don't drive them, just, asking for
Great question.
friends.
Yeah.
Asking for friends.
Any other questions? Because I'm gonna read the things we read at every meeting.
This is more than for driving, you said, right?
Well, that certificate specifically is for
Traveling.
traveling / driving, because there are Moors who have to, you know.
You have to do business in the federal ruling with the right to travel. You have right to do commerce and everything.
Yeah.
Like it's in their language and
Yeah.
telling you it. For a lot of people, it's kind of hard for them to understand it if they don't have the actual language in front of them.
It's more than just the language. It's knowing the jurisdictional powers.
They don't even.
I know they don't. They act like they do, but I know they don't based on their actions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because our nation, Morocco, our country, we regulate our commerce. The United States doesn't regulate our commerce. That's an example of us regulating our commerce.
Right.
But it's not us regulating our commerce, it's showing other people, policy enforcers, that we can do commerce on our land. But it's not a privilege that I granted to you.
Right.
That's just saying that this person is competent, and the Moroccan government says that this person is competent. That's all it's saying. It's not taking anyone's rights away. That's all it is. So you can hand it to a policy enforcer and stay silent.
That's
Nothing
it.
else for
That's
you to
another
say.
thing too. It's like we need to have an understanding that we don't have to have a full-blown conversation with these
100%.
policy enforcers. Like that's another thing too. Like we sometimes fall into their trap
Yes.
when we even speak certain spells to them because what they're trying to do is test your incompetence in the situation.
Yep.
And as every time they ask you something, they're just leading you further and further.
Now you're more
from
open to
being
talk.
incompetent because you're not addressing the situation at hand. Just show them what you need to see.
So now,
And don't say nothing. Just
essentially,
respond.
what you're talking about is Corpus Juris Secundum, Volume 7, issues of law superseding issues of fact. What you're talking about is them getting you into circular arguments so you can talk about facts. Instead of the issue of law is why are you even speaking to me because I haven't done anything. So just read the certificate and go on your way. That's what we're talking about. But our people need to be able to maybe not break it down the exact way I said it, but understand that issues of law supersede issues of fact. If I'm talking about anything factually based, before the issue of law is dealt with, then there's a violation of due process.
Due process, exactly. Because of the sidestepping the
Everything
actual
else.
truth. And then they're coming to their own conclusion and they're like, okay, we sidestep the facts, let's deal with the conclusion that we already formulated because you're under a certain, you're not even under a status, you're just, you're just a body we're gonna deal with. Get some money out of you and then
That's it.
throw you back out in the wild and catch you again.
That's it.
Rinse and repeat.
Which keeps them in power because they maintain the veil that they can actually do it, and then they're just extracting energy from it. That's it. All they're doing.
Testing you. That's it.
Yeah,
So-
when you're traveling, let's say you're walking down the street and you have that fold up in your wallet.
Oh, if you're walking, then you don't really need it.
Yeah, and someone, let's say you fit the description, they want to have that conversation with you, that could be.
So in that instance, right, if a policy enforcer stops you, in that instance, they are supposed to radio into their people. I'm talking to a Moor right now. Their people are supposed to talk to the sheriff or a Supreme Court judge, right? And say, I'm speaking to a Moor right now, what do I do? That Supreme Court judge is then supposed to call the Moorish American consulate. Hey, one of my people is talking to this Moor. Then the Moorish American consulate is supposed to say, okay, what's going on? Did anything get violated? If so, meet me on the scene right now.
Right.
Because it's international. You never see Chinese people being pulled over because they deal with things internationally. They have their people speak like that. Just like when you go downtown, so-called Providence, 6th district, not district, 6th district, not district, 6th district, they're plain. You see Portuguese consulate. That's where they deal with their stuff. They don't deal with it on the street like us or go to 6th district. They go to their consulate. There needs to be something that says Moorish consulate. Or in order for that to happen, the Moors have to make that happen.
Right.
See what I'm saying? That's why we keep saying Moorish town and move out here, right? You know what I'm saying? Great questions, great additions, great points. Any more? All right, who would like to read the things to be read at every meeting? If no one raise their hand, I'm going to select someone. Not you.
Oh, you get right.
Oh, you don't have the glasses. Anyone?
I raised my hand.
Yeah, but not you. You read it before. Preferably a woman. And now we're narrowing things down.
You're new, you should know the name.
All right, fine.
You're
I
new.
won't choose a woman.
It should be a new one.
Tia.
No,
It should
read
be the new person.
That's fine.
It should be the new person. Because new.
I
Yeah, so
She has a female.
this might be too, this might be overhead because she's so new. Should I come there? He's young. Come on down.
Tia.
Not a read, I believe.
Let's get more
Sound it out.
participation.
Think about what you're doing.
Sit in the hot seat. Yeah, it's probably warm too, though. Let's take a break now.
This is the front, right?
Doesn't matter.
To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam, this is the instruction from your Prophet Noble Dwelling. Be faithful onto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is one of the judges of the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near. So says Allah. To his divine prophet, I know you Ali, and that's why many hearts have been turned to stone, and many eyes have to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear. These things would be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, when every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every mind to overthrow and drag up the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah, in the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against you, your prophet, and ridicule him to the lowest. And the ones that speak against your divine and natural principles, your temples, act accordingly. And Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Dwali, prophet warns all Muslims to be ready. I hereby inform all members that I must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple of the Prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their own reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by the Prophet. If they lose confidence in their Prophet, they should turn in their hardened buttons. cease wearing their turban flags and return to the state where I, the prophet, found them. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Ali. If the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their property in the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Ali. Caveat emptor. Moors are men, upright, independent, and fearless, who care for their loved ones and follow the prophet to a destiny which is not uncertain nor unknown. They are fortified by the impregnable doctrine built upon love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It is therefore folly at its greatest height for smelly culprits for their insidious plans to invade such realm. They try, but their own bad planning brings down wrath upon their heads like the sword of Damocles had. Intrigue and scurrilous cunnings find a difficult path to travel within the ranks of the Moors. This is because the Moorish movement had been planned by the prophet Noble Ali, whose Latin powers are abundant, unknown, and may be called into action as a matter of defense. At any movement, Prophet Noble Ali knows the people within his ranks who are interested. They are vanguard of the movement as the Moorish hordes increase here in America. All of the Moors are active, not passive. A member's interest can only be in one direction, and having traveled over the road years before the prophet knows where every member is along the road. A few feet below is another road where schemers work, where traders grin and culprits bask in the sun. They think they are on the same road as true Moors, but the Moors are high above on a pinnacle where they might view the destructionists as they fall for the last time in their bones bleached in the sultry midday sun. Hungry scavengers flying high, catch scent, devour, and leave crying out. Caveat emptor, cast out the dead carcass. The Moors high above see these plotters, purveyors, the worst that exist, hurl themselves downward by their own works as the haltway. Islam. I am glad to know that a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me in the movement now by the same people of our side of that nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from government officials in the nations of earth, this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon. For their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every stream that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is to the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me in the movement will be remembered. This is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drawley.
You should read that more often. You're a great reader.
So,
Speaker of the House.
Speaker of the House. That sounds good. That sounds good.
House.
That sounds good. Is there any more information, or anyone have any comments on the information I just presented?
It's only a matter of testing it out, right?
Basically, because we're scientists.
So,
But if they're looking at their laws, it's kind of like, what are you going to say to them?
yeah.
Because we've been arguing right to travel. This is a corporate person that can't speak on that. That's why they never do. We're the ones buying it. Which a lot of Moors can't admit that. that we're the ones violating because we don't have government. That's a violation. And then when we do have government, there's a bunch of people self-appointing themselves. And it's just them in a room.
Selling you packets.
Yeah, selling you packets. Instead of saying, 5 notes for this and, let's keep this going. Cost effective. You know what I'm saying? Would you like to share your story? No? You don't have to. We can go off camera.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
All right, cool. So, nothing else. Thank y'all for tuning in. Let me show the crowd real quick.
Just wanna see the picture.
So it's nice.
Yeah, let me show. This is what we're working with. I have all these beautiful faces, all these smiles.
Islam is
Got the chef in the back. The vegan chef in the back.
Juju's Corner.
Juju's Corner.
Juju's Corner.
Peace out, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. If you want any more literature, go to riseofthemoors.org. Visit rbbaypublications.com. Visit MoorishAmericanConsulate.com. Visit thewillofalah.com, I think. Study. If you ask me what to study next, I'll say study yourselves. Right?
Yeah.
Study. If you ask me where to study, I'll say riseofthemoors.org or just move down here. Right?
Class.
From the class.
Wait. I want all y'all to say move down here.
Move down here.
Yeah.
This
What should we say?
This is where it's at.
Yeah.
Moore's Town.
Up here.
Moore's Mobility.
We're up. Where you are?
So,
Yeah, we're down. We're down.
We are.
We're down on the perspective.
we can talk about that later. Thank y'all for tuning in. Appreciate all of y'all. Come down to the temple, 23 Acorn Street, so-called Providence, Rhode Island, 02903, which is really Narragansett land.
Yeah.
The seat of the Narragansett Confederacy was Mount Hope Bay, B-E-Y.
Bang.
Peace.
That's where I'm at.